So, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm talking to this amazing woman who's written. She was diagnosed in 2018 with breast cancer. Now, the thing is, I don't want to say that she's only a breast cancer survivor. She is a mum. She's actually also written books, which I find really inspiring because these books aren't just for adults; they're actually for children as well. Because believe it or not, we forget that when women, especially with children, are diagnosed, they go through their own journey as well, trying to think, is mummy going to be okay? Is she going to survive this? Things like that. So my guest today is Marci Cox. She was diagnosed, as I said, back in 2008 with stage 3 breast cancer. And she's also an author of some books. One is called Mummy Has a Boo-Boo. And the other one is the breast cancer GPS. And having said that, welcome, Marci.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So like I sort of introduced, I thought it was a great idea how you wrote books for children, because it's not that parents forget about it. One of the things I did ask out there, the general public, is what are the two things people fear the most when getting diagnosed with breast cancer? And the top two stories, I guess, would be, or the top two answers would be not living my life to my full potential and leaving my small children behind. So I thought that was really, profound to hear that. So if you want to just touch us on, let us know what happened, why you're telling your story about breast cancer and things like that.
Sure. So Grace, so I was diagnosed in 2018. At the time, we didn't know what stage I was in. They said I was grade, I think it was 2. I ended up being stage 3. And I decided to do a double mastectomy without reconstruction. And my kids at the time were 1 and 5. And so, of course,
Wow.
the emotions run, as soon as you find out and you hear those words, I'm so sorry you have cancer. And of course, I was shocked. I was at my daughter's swim lesson. She was just about to go in. And I had called my husband. I said, I haven't heard from him all day because I had the biopsy the day before. And so I said, I'm going to call. And so I ended up calling, and, she finally gets on the phone and said those words to me. I'm so sorry you have cancer. And I just broke down in tears. I grabbed my daughter. My 1-year-old was in the baby carrier next to me. We ran out. And of course, my oldest looks at me and goes, Mommy, what's wrong? And I'm crying. I go, it's going to be okay. Mommy's going to be okay. We're going to fix this. We're going to fix it. And I'm just, crying hysterically, and she's never seen me like that before. And so all of a sudden it's a whirlwind. You go home and I'm calling everybody on the phone. I couldn't actually talk to my parents because they were in Israel on a vacation. And I have an older brother. And so we decided that we were going to wait until they got home to tell them the news, because we didn't want to, screw up their vacation. So I had to wait about 5 more days really to tell them. But in the meantime, I started doing YouTube videos, and I knew I wanted to tell my story. And that was really the big thing. When I was researching as well to tell my 5-year-old, what mommy was about to go through, and I decided to do the double mastectomy without reconstruction, there weren't too many books that touched base on that. And yes, there's a lot of books that talks about mommy's gonna have no hair, mommy's going through things, but never really touched base on the no reconstruction. So I'm flat. And I wanted to touch base on that. And so I started to write. It was more like a healing process. And I ended up writing Mommy Has a Boo-Boo. And that book talks about it. It goes pretty much through my whole journey of, mommy finds out what happened. She's meeting with the doctors. Mommy's going to have surgery. Mommy's might have to have some medicine. It does talk about mommy might have to lose her hair. But in the end, mommy's still the same. Even though mommy has no more boobies, you can hug her closer and you can feel her heart beating. So it kind of just goes along through the story, through the story of my journey or another woman's journey of going through breast cancer. And from there, I ended up, because my daughter had so many questions. Currently, my kids right now are, they're going to be 4 and 8 actually this month, August. But I ended up writing a journal to go along with Mommy Has a Boo Boo, and it's called Mommy Has a Boo Boo, Now What? And basically, it's like a coloring book / discussion book, because kids are so intuitive. They have so many questions, and they want to know who's going to take me to dance class, who's going to pick me up from school. Because a lot of the times that's what we do is we're driving the kids around, we're taking them back and forth. So, that book goes through that also, and just really helps the child understand that, hey, mommy's going to be sick for a little bit, but hey, we've got other people that are going to help out. And, we're going to write down grandma's going to help, or the neighbor's going to help, or, whoever. And there's a section in there that says, hey, mommy's going to lose her hair. Can you draw a picture of how you can help mommy? And so, just little things to get them to interact. When I was going through it, I ended up buying wigs for my daughter and I got rainbow wigs. And so I wanted to make it fun because I knew it was not going to be fun. But I wanted her to not be so scared. And I was very open and honest with her. I always walk around, I joke. I mean, we're very open. And so we walk around naked in the house. So she sees me. Both my kids see me without breasts. And I've got the prosthetics. And, I couldn't even tell you the number of times I've even worn them. It's probably been 10 times. I think my kids wear them more than I do, to be honest. I let them play with them. I do have a set of the good prosthetics. I don't let them touch those, but I have something called knit and knockers. I don't know if you guys have them in Australia, but it's a group out here that will knit a set of fake looking boobs for you, and they're free. And, you can stuff them in a mastectomy bra. And so I let the girls play with those and, just let them have at it. But I enjoy being flat. I mean, it's so nice because I'm here in Arizona in the United States, and it is so hot here right now that to have that extra layer of a bra, it's nice that I don't have to wear one anymore. So
it's like a win-win.
Right? So, I mean, I always had to look at the positives of getting breast cancer is how I have to look at it. So when I was first diagnosed, and I knew I was going to be losing both my breasts, I had a bye-bye boobie party. And I made it fun. We did pin the tail on the boob. And we did like the toilet paper, how you do like at wedding showers, we made bras, and I had a cake made in the shape of breasts. And so I made it fun because I couldn't change the fact that I had breast cancer, as you know. And so from there, I've written those 2 books, but I also wrote another one called The Breast Cancer GPS. And that one is for women who've been newly diagnosed. And it's got a list of questions to ask all of your doctors, from your oncologist to your radiologist, to your plastic surgeon, to your breast surgeon. And then it goes into tips and tricks from your surgeries, from going through chemo, going through radiation. But in the very beginning, when I went to see doctors, they're always going to ask you, what is your medical history? Who in your family's had cancer? What supplements are you on? What medications are you on? So I have that in the beginning part of that journal. So you can list everything in there and then just go in and show it to your doctor. So you don't have to be, tell them, hey, take a copy of this, just so you don't have to repeat yourself. And so that's definitely something that I'm pretty excited about. And then there's just some other journals. There's another one that I have. It's just a plain line journal, Courage, Hope, and Strength, because I know a lot of women, journaling is just, it's healing for them, just to write things down, whether they write every day or once a week. So I created that one too, and it's got positive affirmations in it every couple pages. And then I'm about to come out with another one because I never thought I'd be an author. You know, cancer changes that, I guess, because it was never on my bucket list. But now I've got that writing book. And so it's been a lot of fun. And so my next one that is about to come out, it's called The Warrior's Journey. And it's got thought-provoking questions. And it's not just about breast cancer. This one can fit any type of cancer. And because we all are going through the same feelings and emotions. And so it's got these questions that can help you, whether you're just starting your journey or even after you're done with all treatments. And there's a place where you can currently write, and then 6 months from now come back and maybe your answers have changed. And so it's just kind of a way to get you through. And, you know, I mean, I'm 2.5 years out and I'm still learning all of that. I probably have to answer my own questions that I wrote in the journal, because, you know, you're still finding your way of life after cancer. And
absolutely,
you know, and things change. I mean, you know, I kind of joke, I'm a workaholic. I do real estate full time here. And now I'm an author and doing other things, and I've got the kids. So, you know, my plate is loaded. I've got so much going on. And my husband always said to me, you never slow down. You know, we want to do all these trips and things. And when I got cancer, I said, you know what? I'm going to take those trips. And of course, then COVID hit, so we had to cancel a few trips. But we, you know, we wanted to take the girls to, we call it the Polar Express. And unfortunately, we had to cancel that one. But it's like, I just started booking trips because I said, you know what? My life, granted, knock on wood, I survived, and I'm not going to take life for granted. And that's really what it's all about, is something bad had to happen in order for me to realize the good in my life. Does that make sense?
That does. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. That's just, you know, it is crazy because, like I always say that as well. You know, the moment you get diagnosed, it's like you push back. It's like you push your chair back and you look at things bigger and wider and sort of go, right, what do I want? What do I want to get rid of? Because that no longer serves me, and this is more important now. So that is just really, wow. It's just amazing. I'm going to go back and ask you though, because you know, there's obviously the reasons behind people. When I say the reasons, if you don't mind sharing, the reasons why people have double mastectomy. So I'll ask you if it was in your family, or what made you decide, like, or what made you make the final decision, of course, but what was it in your diagnosis that made you make that final decision?
Yeah. So I basically, my surgeon, I interviewed actually a few doctors, and the one I ended up with, I mean, they said I could have done a lumpectomy, but I'm kind of OCD, and I was so nervous, and I'm the type where if they did that, I'm always going to wonder, when's it going into the other breast? And so there was no way I was going to do a single mastectomy, because again, I can't do the unevenness. If I saw one side without a breast and one with, that would just drive me crazy. So I asked, you know, I was 40 at the time, and I'm 43. And I said to the doctors, I looked at them and I said, if this was your daughter, if I was your daughter or your mom or your sister, I said, what would you tell them to do? And they all looked at me and they said, get rid of them. And I said, okay. And I was 99% sure that's the way I was going to go anyway, was to, you know, get rid of them, but also to stay flat. I did my research. I knew I did not want breast implants. I did not want a foreign object in my body. And there's so much, especially here in the United States, about breast implant illness. And I was just so afraid of getting that, because I know some women who have gotten autoimmune diseases because of their implants. And so I knew I didn't want that. And then there's something called the deep flap, where, you know, they take the tissue and the fat from your abdomen and they will make breast out of it. Well, after talking to the plastic surgeon, that was a 13-hour surgery. And he said, you're under longer than you would for a heart transplant. And I was so afraid to be under for 13 hours. And he also said to me, sometimes that skin doesn't even take and it'll fail. And therefore, then I have to put an implant in. And, I went on a website on Facebook. There's a lot of groups. There's the deep flat group, there's the breast implant, and then the flat. And so I joined them all because I wanted to do my research. And, I saw like open wounds on the women having from the deep flap. And you still, whether you do the flap or you do the implants, you still have to have more surgeries. And I knew for me, that's not what I wanted to do. I did not want to go under so many times. I wanted to be done. I had small kids. I wanted to move on with my life. And Grace, to be honest, I wasn't even that big anyway. I was a size 36, barely B. I mean, I did not even fill out the cup. So for me to go flat was not a big deal. And I'll tell you, because a year after I went through everything, my cousin, I think she was 33 at the time, she said to the doctor, she just had a baby. And she said, my cousin just went through breast cancer. I've hit my deductible. I'd like to have a mammogram just to make sure everything's fine. And, and I don't know what the laws are, in Australia, but here, normally it's about 40 years old is when you get your first mammogram.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So she's 33. And of course the doctor was like, well, you don't really need to, but if that's what you want, fine. So they let her have it. And guess what? They found breast cancer. Okay. She would never have known. She did, like, for me, I actually felt it in the shower. And I hardly did self-exams. And I was taking a shower with my oldest, and I said, I'm just going to, while she's soaping up, I'm just going to feel around. And I felt something. And so my cousin didn't feel anything. She had nothing, no symptoms, nothing. And so it's so scary because I'm hearing so many women who are in their 30s, in their 20s, getting diagnosed. And now it's like, we've got to be an advocate for ourselves. And so I knew, like I said, for me, going flat was the best decision I made. And now I'm just paranoid with everything. I ended up being ER/PR positive. I was HER2 negative. And then I was also BRCA negative. So I ended up doing my surgery first. And then when they went in, they ended up taking 12 lymph nodes, and 4 of them were precancerous. And my surgeon said to me, she goes, I'm so glad you decided to do the double mastectomy. She goes, you'd be back on my table in a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just, gives me goosebumps every time I say that, because I mean, you don't know. I mean, some people, and don't get me wrong, if you do a lumpectomy, I know women that have done that and they're fine. I know, God, like, she's like my second mother to me. She's 20 plus years of being a survivor and she did a lumpectomy. So, so I don't want to scare anybody that, oh my God.
Of course.
But you've got to, I just tell people, because people always ask on these Facebook sites, like, which way should I go? And I say to them, what does your gut say? Because I'll tell you 99% of the time, your gut is always correct.
Yeah, that's so true. I agree, because that's exactly what I said. Like when I first got diagnosed, I put together a dream team. When I call a dream team, it was my 5 closest people who I wanted in my corner. And I basically sat down and we discussed it. And I said, right, guys, I've got cancer. We've all got breast cancer. What do we do? And all the questions, like you said, what can you try? What questions can you ask? What does this mean? What does that mean? And just having touched on that, I interviewed a lady just recently. She's out of Florida. I'm not sure if you heard of her. Her name's Christine Handy. Christine Handy? Yes. And she also went flat. She actually, well, if you read her story, she was, like you said, one of these women who had a double mastectomy, had the implants, had problems with the implants, caused issues, then she had to get them out. So it was like one of those things. I was better off not having it. But on the other side of the coin, I interviewed also I think Lucy was about 33. She had to have she opted for a double mastectomy so she wouldn't have to have radiation or cancer. And now she's looking at the after effect, like, what is this? What do I have in me? This isn't me. And it's like you said, it's whether, and I guess that's what I'll ask now. The question now is, psychologically, because physically it's one thing, but it's psychological as well for yourself as a woman. You've grown up, you've got 40 years with breast, and then all of a sudden you don't. So psychologically, how did you overcome that?
You know what? I mean, it's interesting because when I first took it off, I was so scared. They put that binder on you, and I remember taking it off. I was actually scared to look at myself. But God, now like 2.5 years later, it feels natural. And I took before pictures actually. And I look at those pictures because I'm a big journal. So I've done YouTube videos. I've got a website where I blog, but then I do this like picture books. I do an like year in review with my girls. Well, I did one for my breast cancer and I documented everything. And so I look at the picture of myself with my breasts and I go, God, I can't remember what it felt like to have them. Or I look at myself and I'm like, God, that looks different to me. Because this is my new body. And I've had to learn to love it. I use a online. I buy clothes online now through Stitch Fix. And again, I don't know if you guys have it there, but so I get this every 3 months. And I told them I was going through a double mastectomy. And so they kind of pick out clothes. And so no one can see, but if you see what I'm wearing, I've got like some ruffles up here. And so I learned like ruffles are a good thing, stripes. But realistically, I mean, I'll wear anything. And I really don't care. I don't care anymore. If people look at me, whatever, I tell them I had cancer, get over, stop, but but I think it's all in our head too, because so many people that they're not looking at you. They have no idea.
Exactly.
And it's you've got to be comfortable with yourself. And, like you said, I've learned to love my body. I'm still working on things because I'm seeing a nutritionist now because I joke now I've got that Buddha belly because I don't have the breasts. But now my belly is sticking out more. So I've got to even that out. But yeah, I mean, it's still, I'm still going through all those changes, and I'm still mentally, I'm there, and I'm great at giving advice to other people, but it's hard for me sometimes as well to take my own advice. And so I'm still learning that. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too, because isn't it? It's funny. Like sometimes we're our worst enemy. We're telling everyone else, like, don't think like that. Just go through it. You're going to be fine. And then you go, oh, hang on a minute. I'm not really telling you this. I'm actually telling
myself,
this.
right?
I'm telling myself because I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. But like, I love what you said, because the whole idea is, learning to get through it. And it's a process. Don't, some people, it hits everyone differently. Whether you're a mum, whether you're single, whether you're, you're in a same-sex relationship, whether, like me, I'm married 11 years, but I don't have children. Whether you have a divorce, just before, a lot of women get divorced just before being diagnosed and things like that. Everyone processes it differently, but it's okay to process it, and I guess that's what your message is about as well. It's okay to process it. There's no right or wrong, we have to do what we feel within us. Like you said, your gut feeling will know 100% what's good for you. Like whatever decisions I made, my husband would turn around and go, I don't care what you want to do, Grace. If you want to start hanging upside down for a whole month, we're doing it.
Right.
If that's what your decision is,
Right. And my husband was on board too. I mean, he told me, he said, get rid of them. He goes, I don't care if you don't have them. And so I got very lucky in that sense, because other women have said, well, my husband's a boob man, and, I feel like I have to get the implants for him. And I said, you know what? You got to do it for yourself. Like, it's your body. Whatever decision you make, if he's not on board with it, tough. Throw him to the curb,
Yeah, absolutely.
But because, I mean, in the end, it's you. You've got to take care of yourself. And so, so my husband's been on board since day one. And And my kids, I mean, you know, my 7-year-old is going to start hitting puberty. And, you know, she says to me, you know, well, mommy, how are you going to teach me how to put a bra on? I said, well, honey, I had boobs for a long time. I still remember how to do it. And she goes, well,
Yeah.
will you put on your mastectomy and the fake ones and show me? I said, yes, honey. Well, it won't be a problem. So, you know, I mean, she'll go to my mom and she'll want to touch the boob, you know, touch my mom's breast and stuff. And even my little one was in the shower with my mom one night, and she calls her Bubby. And that's Yiddish Jewish for grandmother. And she goes, Bubby, she goes, you got to take your boobs off. And my mom goes, well, honey, I can't. Those are real.
It's like, don't shower with them. You're going to wet them. What are you doing?
So, you know, I mean, like I said, you got to joke with them and whatever.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
but having said that as well, so you've been tested for the BRCA1 and BRCA2.
Right. Yep.
And that's all negative, isn't it?
Yep. So that was negative. I did come back with some mutation that they really didn't know too much about. And so they told me in about 5 years to just get retested. So I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know the name of what it is and things like that. Yeah. But, you know, I'm just, every little thing scares me now, because at one time I had this ganglion cyst on my right by my knuckles there. And of course I was like, oh my God, I have cancer. Like something's back. And, you know, I go into the dermatologist and she drains it. She goes, you're fine.
You know, it's true.
But every little thing, like I've got a bump now on my ear, like right where the earring is. And I don't know if I don't think it's always been there. So of course I'm going to the dermatologist next week, and I'm sure it's fine. But again, it's all in my head. So now I'm like a hypochondriac because I think everything is wrong with me.
Me. I go in. I have I went in, when was it? Probably about 6-8 months ago. You know, my shoulder is hurting. And I happened to, this is one thing I did learn, is how to get rid of negative groups. When I say negative groups, there are some Facebook groups out there for cancer, but what they do is they love to sit in the, look at me, I'm dying, look at me, I'm not getting better. So it's unfortunate for these people, but they're living in the negative. So what happened was, two things actually happened. One was that I happened to read, oh, you can have cancer up here and you won't even know. Well, signs of it is a sore shoulder. Okay. Oh, my breast cancer's back. So I go into the emergency, and obviously the doctor's asking me a billion questions, and then looks at me and goes, I think it's a muscle, you know, but, you know, you sort of go, oh, okay. And I just went to have my 3rd year checkup. So when I go for my surgeon, I always get a mammogram, ultrasound, and MRI. And I walked into her room, and I love my surgeon. She's a straight shooter. And she looks at my paper and she's like, yep, you're good. I'll see you in 12 months. And I burst into tears, and she's like, why are you crying? And I said, because I'm listening to the negative people. Oh, I was cancer-free for a year, it came back. Oh, I was cancer-free for 2 years and it came back. And she said, Grace, stop looking into that. And I thought, I have to, because that's what will hurt you. Because like you said, every time I feel something now, it's like, oh, what is it? Oh, okay, what is it? Before I'd be running to the doctor going, I think I got this extra head growing on the side, but I don't think it's anything bad. You know what I mean? But now it does change a lot. It does make you feel a little bit more anxious. And I just recently, I'm not sure if you've heard the terminology now, but they call it scanxiety, believe it or not.
I think I may have heard something. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you know, so it's like that's what happens, because you get anxious. So yeah, it's so, you know, going forward with your journey and everything now, you know, you've got your books, you've got your journals, which is great. I'm all about journaling as well. Like you said, you know, I always say to people, journal, because it helps you write down what you want to write down. Because if you're not someone who can verbally say things, write it down, get it out. But it also, I love the fact that you can always go back, like you said, and have a look at how far you've come, because we forget that. we
Yep.
think we're in this mess the whole time, and you forget that. So I really love the way that you actually brought out, the breast cancer GPS, because I think it's really important. Like you said, that's why when people say to me, what do you do, Grace? And I said, I help women just diagnosed. Because if you've got breast cancer, you don't need me. You
Right.
don't need me. You know
Exactly.
what you're doing, but things like that. So, yeah. So what advice, like what, you said, so did you go through chemo and radiation?
I did. So yeah. So after I had the lymph nodes out and everything, usually they send them out for the oncotype score. And depending on your age and what the score is, it'll tell you whether or not chemo is going to benefit you. Well, in my case, my doctor didn't send it out because he said to me, 4 of them were precancerous. He goes, you don't have a choice. He goes, you're doing chemo and you're doing radiation because you're so young. He goes, I want you to live, see your kids grow up and get married. And so I did. We call it the red devil. So adriamycin, and I forget what the C one is. So I did 4 rounds of the red devil. And then I did 12 rounds of Taxol. And so that's why, I lost my hair because I thought about doing the cold capping. And, it's where, for women that don't know, the cold caps can kind of help save your hair. I mean, it's this freezing cold cap that you put on and you've got to change it out. I forget how often. So I had asked my oncologist about that. And he said, unfortunately, with the red devil, he goes, you're going to lose your hair. He goes, don't waste your money because it's not covered by insurance. So I didn't do that. And I'll tell you though, I mean, the first weekend of my red devil was absolutely horrible. People, of course, you listen to everybody. And so they're like, oh, you won't get sick for, 2 or 3 days. So that's what I'm expecting. I went in on a Friday and I said, okay, I won't get sick till probably Sunday or Monday. And I got sick that night. It was absolutely horrible. And I mean, I couldn't eat. When I put like a metal spoon in my mouth, it was like, metallic tasting.
Yeah, metallic. Yeah.
I remember I was drinking soup with a straw just because I couldn't even open my mouth. It was just, I had my husband call the on-call doctor twice. And he said, pretend she's pregnant again. Whatever she can get down to eat, let her eat it. He goes, get sweetened applesauce, the sugar pudding. I couldn't even do saltines. Those made me even more sick. So Ritz crackers, I loved them. And so I was like sucking on those. So I was like, yeah, whatever I can get down. And then I got smart, Grace, because I went in that Monday and they hydrated me. And so the 2 weeks later, I said, you're going to hydrate me again. As soon as I'm done that Friday, I'm going to stay another hour and you hydrate me. Then I'm going to come back in on Monday and get hydrated. From then on, I was not sick. I mean, that was a game changer for me. And so I tell everyone, I'm like, make sure they hydrate you and go back in a few days later and get more, because I'm not a big drinker anyway. And you've got to really drink to, flush that stuff out of you. So I hardly got sick. I mean, I got bone aches and things like that. I was tired, but I worked the entire time. I mean, I kind of joke because I was wearing my mask before COVID hit. I'm showing houses with my mask on. And I'm like, I'm telling everybody. So
you brought in the trend before.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I still worked. I rested, of course, when my body told me to rest. And I mean, this is horrible to say, but when I was on Taxol, they gave me Benadryl. And the first time, I mean, it knocked me out. I felt like I was hungover. I was so tired, and like I'd wake up throughout and I'm like not even speaking well. So, they had to cut it back, but I looked forward to my Friday Taxols because that was my nap time. My kids were in school and daycare, and I said, oh, it's, I didn't care if anyone was with me. I had my phone. I'm playing on the internet. Literally probably 20 minutes later, I was passed out the entire time. So I'm like, so I got my nap in. And again, I mean, but that was a positive. I'm looking at it. I wasn't looking at the negatives. I'm like, okay, look, it's nap time for me. And whatever. So that's what I tell women too, is you got to look at the positive things about it.
Absolutely.
So I finished with that, and then I had to do, I think, about 28 days of radiation. So of course that's every day I had to go in there. I mean, we joke because it takes more time getting prepared by driving
Yes.
there, getting set up, than it does that you're actually in the room getting your
Yeah.
radiation.
Yeah,
And it was more
that's
of a
true.
pain because I was putting on lotion. I mean, I got the whatever prescription they told me to get. I put that on twice a day. On top of that, I was using 100% aloe gel. And then I was doing another lotion, and I was slathering that on 4 times a day. I mean, that took up more of my time than anything because it was just pain. You know, so
It's like, it's the after effect. It's like, gee, people, can't you
right,
make this more simple? Can't you
right.
just put it all in the one?
But and so like another trick for that too is I got those wife beater shirts because people were saying, wear those because you're going to be lotioning up, and so then it wouldn't get on my clothes. And so, so I had like, I don't know, weeks worth of these tank tops. And so that was it. I mean, 28 days of that. Then after that, I was done. And then I just kept seeing my doctor every 3. So I'm still seeing him about every 3 months right now. And so, I mean, I know you're saying about once a year. And so it really just depends where you are in your treatment.
Absolutely.
And, eventually I'll probably go down to 6 months. Now with me, because I don't have breasts, I'm not doing mammograms. I'm not doing scans. So it does still make me a little nervous because, how do they know that I'm really cancer free?
Yeah.
And, I mean, he does say, I mean, they check my blood work. I guess they check tumor markers. He says, I don't know, maybe every 6 months, once a year. He checks those, but he goes, unless you're feeling something, he goes, I'm not too concerned, which I don't know if that I don't know how to take that, to be honest.
Well,
But
yeah.
I'm an advocate for myself because, like I said, every little thing, where before I probably would wait like a week or two when I had the sniffles, and I'm like, oh, it's just a cold, whatever, But now I'm like, okay, one, do I have COVID, or, or what else do I have?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so I'm just, I'm more on top of it, I guess.
Yes, of course. And the thing is too, because I come from a family where I became the 5th member of my family, even though it's not in the BRCA. It just happens to be I'm a big Italian family where lots of girls. But my mum had breast cancer. But my mum's see, the thing is, it's quite it's one of those we're not too sure. When I say we're not too sure, is because my mum was diagnosed with now, I don't know if it's uterus cancer or cervical cancer. And then like 6 months later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we're not sure which one caused the other one. However, having said that, her mother had it, her sister had it, and a first cousin from another sister had it as well, and then myself. So one of my sisters, I come from a family of we're 4 girls, and one of my sisters decided to have a double mastectomy. Now, this is the thing, because if you're wondering and things like that, just to sort of say, so she had a double mastectomy. She decided, well, mum had breast cancer. I don't want to get it. Like you said, I want to be around for my children. So 7 years ago, she had a double mastectomy. And just recently, and again, I love the way that you said you asked many doctors. My surgeon now was my second doctor, my second opinion. So I said to my sister, I think you should go and see my surgeon for a second opinion, because she started to feel a lump. Now she's saying, well, the first surgeon said, you don't have to worry. You've actually decreased your chances of breast cancer by a lot with having a double mastectomy. And so she felt a lump, and she was like, oh, I felt a lump. And I said, well, go see my surgeon. In her case, all it was her implants had folded. Now, I know my surgeon. She will get a piece of paper this long, and she'll say, I want you to do all of these tests, and instead she said, no, it's just your breast implants. You're good to go. So if that gives you some comfort, people with mastectomy have got such a lower, I'm not saying it's 0 because I'm not a doctor, but it's so much lower, because what they've done is they've gone in and they've taken everything they can out. Now, if your breast cancer was, say, towards the front of your breast and not towards the skin, it's different again, because they get rid of that, things like that. But I get it. I'm not here advocating, oh, you're fine, leave it 7 years, because even
Exactly.
my surgeon freaked out when my sister said, well, our previous surgeon kept saying to her, you don't have to worry, don't have to worry, don't have to worry about it. And she's thinking, it's been 7 years, don't I have to be checked? So, the reason I say that is because everyone's different too. You know what I mean? You get women who, like you said, they've had the double mastectomy and something happens, or their double mastectomy, nothing happens. But I do know that it's very less than the fact that like you said, that there are surgeons now that are, instead of doing a double mastectomy, like you said before, the 13-hour surgery where they're taking fat or whatever they need to take out from other parts of your body and fill it up. I think whichever way, you're going to be fine. Like you said, you're only got the you not only, but in your case, you can't have the mammogram, and you can't have well, you can still have an ultrasound, and you can still have an
Yes,
MRI, I guess.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
can, if there were other symptoms, but yeah, I mean, going back, so it did not run in my family.
Mm.
So it was just a fluke that my cousin ended up with it. And she's
Yeah.
my first
Yeah.
cousin because it's my mom's sister's kid. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, breast cancer does not run in my family, but, and was BRCA negative. But yeah, I mean, I've known other women that do the prophylactic mastectomies because it does run in their family.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, every situation is going to be different because mine was
Absolutely.
also, it was close to the muscle,
Mm.
but it wasn't in it. It was like in the milk ducts. So again, I didn't want to save my nipple either because I know they could have. And I said, well, what's the point? Like, again, because even if they take it, and that was the whole reason also to do the chemo and radiation, is so that it was more of like an insurance, because they did say that they got it all from my surgery, but it's more of an insurance policy, if you want to call it that, just to
Yeah.
make sure that they really kill it off, because
Right.
it still could float around in the cells. And
Absolutely.
so, and some women do keep their nipples, and that's fine. But like for me, I was like, get rid of whatever evidence there is, because I don't want little cells flying around if I can't, if I can prevent it. So yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
so it's just crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you, because as I said, it comes down to like you said, a personal choice, because you don't want to. I guess you don't want to go, well, like, okay, Lucy opted for a double mastectomy so she didn't have to do radiation or chemo, but that was her journey. And that's what I
Right.
say to people, and I guess you say the same, take what you can, but not everyone is the same. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I believe every woman's breast cancer is like your own print, your own fingerprints. They're all different. So you have similarities, of course, but I've never heard two women to tell me everything was exactly the same. I mean, my surgeon asked me to do a scan, where a full body scan, like a PT scan. I'm not sure if you had that, just to make sure that it's nowhere else. Well,
Yep.
she calls me and she says, good news, it's only in the left breast. But have you ever had a chest x-ray? I'm like, a chest x-ray? Why would I need that? And they found a growth behind my heart. Now, she called the surgeon when I went to see the surgeon, he said, oh, Dr. Chantel is just so crazy that I had to pull over on the side of the freeway, because she's like, you need to look at this report right now. I need to know if this is part of the breast cancer. And it wasn't. But like you said, I had to go in. You have to imagine, I'm going through the process of a breast cancer, and then I had to go in and get a biopsy done for
Yep.
something behind my heart. And it's like, you know what? And like you said, it was quite funny, because when I got the results, when I went for the results, I was like, I'm going to go and book a comedy act. I'm going to go and see a comedy show. I thought, I still don't know what the results are. They probably found something. It turned out to be benign, turned out to be just the swollen lymph node, which was fine. He said, I'll see you never, which was great news. But you know what I mean? Like you said, I just started, I'm going to go and see a comedy act. I'm going to start doing this, because I'm thinking this is the second thing they've now finding. but yeah, of course, like every year, I only had uh, I only had the tumor removed, 2 lymph nodes removed. In my case, I was in the early stages, so I had 2 lymph nodes removed, which were benign, and I just had the lumpectomy done. That's
Mhm.
it. So, but she was happy with that. She actually gave me a little bit of a boob lift, she said, and I said, "Well, why didn't you go in and do it on the other side?" I
Right?
said, "Now I'm like, you could have just finished it
Even,
off, you know."
even them out. But no, but that's interesting, Grace, that you said that, because
Mm.
I did. I had a bone scan. I did. My doctor actually had to fight for the PET scan because I was denied twice for my PET scan. And when I finally did it, well, after I did all the other scans, I had to do a CAT scan, a bone scan. Then they finally said, now we want to do a PET scan. And so my insurance finally agreed to it, which was ridiculous because my oncologist had to do a peer-on-peer discussion with the insurance company and try to fight for it. And in the end, I still had to get one. But they also had found something like in my lung area, like I don't know if it's a hemoglobin, or I don't know if I'm saying it right. But he said it's probably been in your body for years, but who would have known, because you're not doing any of these scans. So luckily it was nothing to be concerned of. But yeah, I mean, then they start seeing everything and you're like, oh, you have this and this, and
Yeah.
it's nothing. Um,
Exactly. You start
so,
getting all these other things. It's like you've just opened Pandora's box. And it's like,
right,
no, just close it. I lived with her for 50 years. Just close it.
right.
But it does. That's why they call it scanxiety, because, they start finding all these things and you're like, oh, I can't deal with that. But even that, dealing with that, you're running a business, or you're working,
Mhm.
you're being a mum, you're being a wife. It's taxing sometimes. So, but what did you find? What willpower did you find, other than your family, of course? What willpower did you find that you went, you know what, this is what I believe is good for me? And then why you felt the need to share it with others? Why is it so important to you to share that with others?
I mean, I remember crying to my husband and I said, I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die.
Yeah.
And, my husband always said to me, even before the cancer, he goes, what are you passionate about? Because I've been doing real estate. I'm going on, I think, 21 years.
Mm.
And I mean, I still love what I do, but I'm burnt out. And he always says to me, what else would you do? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know what else I would do.
Mm.
And then I got cancer. And I think that kind of sparked something, because now I have this newfound passion of wanting to help other women and just kind of hold their hand and walk them through it. I mean, I'm volunteering with a couple groups out here in Arizona. One is My Hope Bag, and the other one is Cancer Support Community Arizona. And like My Hope Bag, they give this woman was also diagnosed, and so she came up with this nonprofit for giving a little bit of hope back to women. And so we provide bags to women filled with things, but on top of that, we also help them with mammograms or give gift cards for gas or meals or things. And so that's a great organization here.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Cancer Support Community Arizona, and that's also a nonprofit, but it's for free programming for anyone diagnosed with any type of cancer, and also for their caregivers or friends. And so, like during COVID, once a month we play bingo online, and my daughter has won I don't know how many times, and they send her a gift card, for $10.
Yeah.
But like there's support groups and programs, and like Reiki and a whole bunch of other things, and so it's like it's just gotten me more involved in the community. I've done the Making Strides walk I did when I was first diagnosed. I'm actually going to be having a booth there in October, but then I'll be participating. And so it's like I've just gotten more involved, and so my passion has just it's really brought that out, and I feel like that's a calling is just to help these women that have been newly diagnosed, just like you.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important because, our stories are here not to, to scare anyone, but it's to inspire them.
Mhm.
Like, like yourself, we can go, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here, guys. I'm still okay. I don't compare apples with apples and all that because, you probably go, well, Grace, you were early stages, But what I'm saying is, well, hang on a minute. I could have been at a later stage, but like yourself, you change. And I went through the same thing. We had a construction business, which we lost 48 hours before I was diagnosed. We lost everything. And my husband said, what do you want to do? And it was like, I thought working, in our own family business is what I wanted to do. It's not what I want to do. It's not what I want to do. I'm very creative. I'm very much hands-on. I love doing stuff. So I worked a lot with crystals myself. In the beginning, like for years, I worked with crystals. So I thought I'm going to just start with crystals. And then from there, I was diagnosed and and like yourself, it's to help women just be diagnosed with breast cancer, because I think it's really important that they hear from others and we're not the violin stories.
Right.
I always say, don't listen to the violin stories because, I'm not sure if it happened to you. As soon as you get diagnosed, it's, oh, well, my sister's friend's mum was diagnosed and she died. And it's like, I don't need to hear that,
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. She survived for the first 5 years and then she died. And it's like, okay, you know what? Enough. I don't want to hear that BS. You don't need to hear that. So you need to hear from women like us that go, it's okay. You will be okay.
Yeah.
Change the mindset. I always say it's very important to change the mindset. So I'm going to ask you now, if you had 5 questions, what would be the 5 questions you would ask, or you would tell the listeners or the viewers to ask their oncologist or their surgeon? What would be the 5 top questions you would have?
Oh, geez. Well, first, what is my diagnosis? What would be the best plan for me, a lumpectomy versus a mastectomy, and why? Let's see, what else? Let me get out my book. Hold on.
Yeah.
Right? Ask the oncologist. What do I have in here? Let me see here. Because normally you see your breast surgeon first. And so let's see. Obviously, if you're BRCA positive or negative, because that also will factor in if you're going to have a hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's another one.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, because luckily for me, I haven't. I mean, I'm going through menopause. That's another positive because I haven't had a period in 2 years, so it's been fabulous. So, and then what else? I mean, and then just depending on which type of, if you're doing reconstruction, which way you want to go. Obviously the stage, because, that's important, because I know with stage 4, a lot of the times that's not curable, but it's manageable by just doing it. So of course you want to know what stage you are. For me, for peace of mind, I wanted to do all the scans. And I know some other women that didn't have the PET scans and all those scans. And so for me, I asked them and pretty much told them, I want to have the scan. I want to know if it's in my entire body.
Yeah, of course.
So, that was another one. I don't know. Did I say 5 of them?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's okay. If you've got 6, I'll take 6. I'll take 7 if you have 7 as well.
Yeah.
But it's like
I have a whole bunch in here in the book.
There you go. I can't wait to see it when I get it. But it's so true, because like you just said, because that's another thing that people forget, especially women. If you're diagnosed when you're younger and you haven't had children, one of them was, you need to look at that, because it can affect your fertility, for having children later on in life. Right. So a lot of people.
Sorry to interrupt you. So
no, go.
My cousin went through that too, because her being so young, they asked her that question that said, do you think you're going to want to have kids? Do you want to look into freezing your eggs? And for me, like after I had my baby, I had my tubes tied, so I knew I was done. But that is for younger women too, is do you want to get your eggs frozen? Because you don't know, because now I am on a long-term pill. I started with tamoxifen actually, and I ended up, and then I had a routine scan done 6 months later. And my doctor, he calls me up and he goes, well, I have good and bad news. And I said, okay. He goes, the good news is you're cancer free. The bad news is you have a blood clot in your lung. And you're 1 in 1,000 from tamoxifen that's the side effect. He goes, out of the 8 years that he's, a doctor here in Arizona, he goes, you're my third patient to have that blood clot. And so, of course, he immediately took me off. He put me on blood thinners for 6 months and switched me to letrozole, which is what I'm currently on. And then I also do the Zoladex shot every 3 months. So they, stick this big pellet in me. But, so you've got those side effects too. And, so some women still do those. Some are on different pills, whatever medications.
Absolutely.
So, you just got to ask all those questions and see what the best plan is with your doctor, and your whole team of, for you. Because even if you're diagnosed with the same, ER/PR positive, HER2 negative, just like you talked about, your journey versus my journey is going to be completely different.
Absolutely. And you can't compare them. And then that's why it's so important, like you said too, it's also important with what medication you're taking. There's women who want to do holistic. I did holistic to a point, and I say that if you're going to do holistic, you need your doctors right here. So I worked really well with my doctors. It's like, I'm not going to go and eat the sun and just, this is going to fuel me. No. I need you right here, because there are certain things that that holistic cannot do for you that Western medicine can. So I always say to people, make sure you have both of them in your basket. Don't ever leave one without the other, because it's important. And like you said, everyone's different. Like I was told, my sisters were very much against me having tamoxifen because my mother got secondary cancer through tamoxifen. So that's why they're like, don't take it. But I didn't just say, well, my sisters said not to take it, so okay, I won't take it. I actually went to the oncologist, and in my case, she told me the pros and cons, and unfortunately with the tamoxifen, the cons were higher than the pros in my case. So I thought, I'm not going to take it. You know what I mean? Because it was just way too different. Now I just turned 50. I think I've been on perimenopause for about 50 years. That's what it feels like. So again, I'm in that discussion now where it's like, I need to have my period because obviously, like we know, while women are before menopause, while they're menstruating, it actually helps reduce the levels of heart failure, which I never knew. So the moment you go, I'm going to have a hysterectomy done, you got to keep in mind that that's now increased. It's decreased your chances of breast cancer, but it's now increased your chances of heart failure or heart attack. So it's like, oh my goodness, Then I just got told by my oncologist, which wasn't really fun news, but he said, you're like one of those people that have their period for a very long time. And I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. I thought I'm going to be over in no time. But he said, no, I think you're going to be going through that cycle. But again, these are things what I'm trying to say is these are things to keep in mind. It's not just the here and now. Like you said, it's the after effects. You're still taking medications. You're still having, shots done every 3 months. These are things to keep in consideration. How am I feeling right now? Is this making it better? Do I need to change things up? What's happening? This is a constant thing that it's unfortunately breast cancer is going to be not breast cancer as such, but the wording, the doctors, the checkups is for the rest of your life. It's like you had that tattoo right here
Yep.
And it's like, you know what? You can't run from it. But I'd rather go, like you said, every 3 months, every 6 months. I was going every 6 months at one stage, the beginning. I was going every 6 months because my lymph node was swollen. Then it was back to normal. Then they found something on the other breast. Now it's gone away. Da, 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 da. So initially I was going like that as well. But it's important. And I think you also agree how important it is to keep up with your appointments. Now, I'm not sure over there in the US, but speaking to my surgeon with COVID, a lot of women are using that as an excuse not to go and do their yearly checkups. Oh,
Yep.
well, there's COVID out there. I'm in lockdown. I better stay home. We were
Yep.
in twice I had to go. We've been in lockdown 5 times. Twice I had to go. My surgeon, I was at her door. Lockdown or no lockdown, I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I
just going.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're right. There are some I hear, on Facebook, like, where I had some friends, well, I just kept putting it off. And I said, do not put it off. Like,
Mm.
I mean, hello. But yeah, I mean, my husband couldn't go with me for the shot. I mean, for the first one, I was squeezing his hands, and then, and then
Yeah.
a couple times he went with me, and then finally it was lockdown and he wasn't allowed to go. And I was so
Mm.
scared to go. And I
Mm.
refuse to look at this needle anyway, at any time. But, now I'm a pro. I stand up now instead of laying down. I squeeze my little belly fat and I said, all right, poke me. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, you can't, you've got to do these things and just
Yeah.
still go and take care of yourself, even if lockdown or no lockdown.
Absolutely. And again, the other thing she mentioned was the increase because women didn't go.
Yeah.
So she's inundated. She's inundated with more. Like when I say our numbers, you got to remember here in Australia, we're only 20 mil of people. So we're not big. But 17,000 women get diagnosed with breast cancer here in Australia. So she's now saying to me, the last time I spoke to her, she said, Grace, I'm inundated because of all these women that didn't come 18 months ago.
That
And
breaks my heart.
it breaks mine too, because they could have been stage 1,
Yep.
lumpectomy, couple of lymph nodes, send you on your merry way. And now they're having mastectomies done. They're doing chemo, they're doing radiation, they're doing all this stuff. And she's saying, like, this could have been prevented in a way. I'm not saying she was going to miraculously get you, but you get what I mean? You're better off finding it at an earlier stage than at a later stage.
Right.
But all of a sudden now she's inundated because everyone's like, oh, well, we're out of lockdown. Yeah, I might go and do that, checkup, my yearly checkup or my 6 months checkup. So it really is sad to know that there are still women that are fearful. I think I have a lesser chance of dying of COVID. So I'll take my risk and go and get my test done, like you said. So on that note, I mean, your books, I'm going to have the link below in the podcast so people can access your book. As I said, the moment I read that you actually have these books for children as well, I thought, people forget about the children. Not that they forget. Don't get me wrong. Families don't forget. But as in others that don't realize it's not just about you going through it. I'm going to be interviewing husbands or partners because they go through it as well. People forget that other people are going through this journey with you, and especially your children, and being so young to get them to understand, and being girls. I believe they're all girls that you have?
Yep. I've got all girls.
Right. So just to get them to understand why this is happening, because boys don't, they get it. I get that they get it. I'm not saying that they don't, but it's